Alex, playing Denver is obviously a challenge in itself, but playing them on back-to-back nights like you guys are about to do presents a pretty unique challenge. Just what did you guys learn from? You guys have done this against Minnesota earlier this year. Did you take anything away from that to apply to this little series here?
Yeah, I don't. Late. Yeah, it's just a good test for us, especially playing a noon game on Sunday. That's something that the postseason brings that you might have. So it's a good opportunity to just kind of prepare for that, and then obviously the opponent, playing against such a good player in Jokic, and then such a good team with championship caliber players in history over the last couple of years. They're a good team. They know how to play, and so for us, it's going to be great discipline, challenge, and just a great game for us just to get, the closer we inch towards postseason play, just start ramping up that dial a little bit.
It seems like this happens every year, but for you guys to have a back-to-back with the Nuggets, it feels like these two games with the play Shea and Jokic are both in, that they're going to factor into the MVP race. Do you think they should mean that much? I mean, how are you contextualizing these games?
Yeah, I mean, you got to carry the same weight game 60 that you do game 1, game 5, or whenever we played them in the first half of the year, because those are just as important to me. I think 1 through 82, but I think if you ask Shea, I think the main focus for him too is obviously he wants to play well. It's a big matchup, like star players, superstars get up for those things, but he said this before too, like he wants to win. I don't think, regardless of how he plays, I don't think if we win, it'll mean as much to him, and so for us, I think it's probably more about playing well, and obviously him playing well is a big part of us having success, and then bringing a win with that, I think would be a good stop for us.
You seem to be a historian of the game. I mean, you seem to put forth appreciation for both these guys and what they're doing. For Jokic to be off of 30-20-20 and Shea to still be like the betting favorite, what does this sort of race say about the state of the league and just those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, the league's never been in a position where it's had more skill, like 1 through 8, 9, 10 on most teams is a guy who can dribble past, shoot threes at an efficient clip. I mean, you see us last night. Like we had, was it 6 guys, probably 6 of our top 8, 10 guys that are out. 6 that have been our starters pretty much stapled throughout the whole year, like rotated in. And we had, 6 guys in double digits. Wiggs had 30, J. Will had triple-double. Like, I'm not saying you don't see that throughout the history of the league, but like for that just to be the case, the league's in a really good spot as far as talent, and individual talent, team talent.
Alex, you guys obviously have a great level of cohesion and connection out there on the floor. So not necessarily to compare, but when you watch Denver play, the kind of the wars that they've been through, the things that this kind of shared scars, what do you see that they maybe have together as a team that you can't press fast forward on?
Yeah, I mean, there's just like there's a mental resilience and kind of just like an unwavering, faith in how the way that they play. Like you see that, and that kind of comes with like the leadership style, I think, of Jokic and Murray. Is like they're both pretty calm, pretty even-keeled demeanor, and it's kind of like, just rotate and stack possessions, which is something that we talk about, all the time. And I think we have a lot of the same qualities with our leaders as far as being next play guys, competing through every single possession. It's like, even if the last one didn't go our way, like, get back to what we want to do, play the next one. And so a lot of that they have, obviously you got to have really good players, but like the togetherness, the way that they play is pretty fluid, and then they have a pretty good confidence and unwavering faith in how they want to play.
They went to the playoffs 4 times before they won a title. I think lost in the first round, won second round a couple times. During that window, is there anything that you observed about just kind of like what teams have to go through to get to the point of being ready to do that?
Yeah, I mean it's something that has been echoed around here for a while. It's like you got to earn it. Like you can do whatever you want. 1 through 82. It's like once it gets to postseason, it's 0-0. There's seeding, but like every team that plays in the postseason, for the most part, pretty much has a chance to get there. You know, all you got to do is play your brand of basketball to a high level. So, I mean, they are probably the poster child for that. Just of maybe, you know, them and the Celtics have had some of that, a little more turnover with that team. But, like, you get there and you have to earn it. Like, no one gives it to you. Like, it's one of the best competitions and tournaments in the world. And a lot of that comes down to whoever puts in the work, and whoever earns it, you know, gets to hold the trophy.
Alex, you mentioned Boston. Obviously, as a team, it took like 8 or so years to kind of climb the mountaintop. This team experience at this point kind of is what it is. You guys are relatively young. Like, how are you supposed to know when your experience is enough?
I mean, when you earn it, you earn it. You know, you got to be a good team. You got to have some all-stars, right? You got to have superstar level talent, guys that can make buckets. You got to have good defense, and you got to be together, and you got to have, you know, a high level of competitive resilience. Like, if you have those things, you have a chance. And it's just my mindset. I believe I can win any game that I'm playing in. Like, that's just, I have to have that, you know, kind of blackout mentality to get to the league and get to this point in my career. And that's something that I try to, you know, rub off on teammates and rub off on teams that I've been a part of. And I mean, if you have that, like, if you're ready, you're ready. Like, it doesn't matter if you have, you know, a couple years experience, 10 years experience. Obviously, it's going to help to have more. But at the end of the day, basket's 10 feet, ball's the same weight, still 3 refs, still 5-on-5. Like, game's a game. You got to throw the ball up and play the game.
Alex, Jada mentioned a couple months ago that you kind of showed off, I guess, your title ring from the Lakers. I was just wondering, where did you get that idea from, and what were you just kind of hoping to accomplish with that?
Yeah, that was something that a couple guys had talked about, just about, they asked me if I had the ring here versus I live in Austin in the off season, so they didn't know if it was here back at that house, and I told them I had it. And then it was just mentions of bringing it, and eventually I got around to it because we were home for a while. And it's just symbolic, you know. That's something that we're chasing, and I don't think that's, you know, a crazy thing to say. I think at this point in the year, like with the success we've had, that's a thing to, like, go out there and say, like, obviously we're playing to win the last game of the season, along with, you know, 16 to 18 other teams in the league. So I thought it was something just. It was just good to have something tangible to see that, like, there is, like, a reward at the end of it. Like, obviously, everyone knows you get the trophy, the T-shirts, the hats, and take the pictures. But I think seeing the ring's a more tangible thing to kind of just put, you know, like I said, just a more tangible item to touch and hold to kind of see.
Show somebody that doesn't talk about, like, him being the MVP. You guys have mentioned that he is the MVP. Quite a few of you guys have, and with the weight of these next couple of games against the Nuggets and Jokic, is there a certain level of extra juice for you guys to want to win those games for him, to kind of put a little bit more distance between him and Jokic?
I don't think so, and I don't mean that in a sense of we don't want him to get that edge and we don't want him to win it, because we think he's obviously very deserving. But a lot of our mantra as a team is, you know, play for the team, play to win, and at the end of the day, through that success, like, the individual accolades and awards will come. And I think, you know, it's not Shea, like, deflecting and smoke screening just to get the questions off. Like, I truly think that's how he views it, and that's what makes him such a great leader for this team and a great player to follow out there on the court, is because he truly cares about winning and he's competitive in that. And obviously, like, it would be nice for him to get represented for the season he's having. But obviously, like I said earlier, like, I think he wants to do that through winning as well.
You mentioned the weight of Game 1 versus Game 6 should be the same, but for a lot of people, it's not. How do you guys block out that the noise of people saying the winners of this game or whoever plays better is going to be the MVP? How do you guys block that out and say, like you just mentioned, that you just want to win every game?
Yeah, kind of the same way. I just don't listen to them. You know, they pay people to go on TV and entertain. You know, they pay us to go out there and play basketball and try and win games. So focus on my job and let those guys do their job.
So you guys average the least amount of turnovers per game in the league. You also force the most amount of turnovers per game. You guys are also leading in points off turnovers and defending points off turnovers. What does that sort of say about like how uniquely equipped you guys are as a roster, and how does that sort of translate to how dominant you guys have been this season?
Yeah, a lot of that is we got a couple guys taking the ball up the court every time that are pretty good players. But then a lot of that, it's just continuity of the team, understanding what we want to do on both ends. We know how we want to play on offense, and it's not about forcing, right? It's about making the reads. If you're open, you shoot. If they're tight to you, you drive it. If someone rotates, you pass. Like very simple basketball concepts that we just do at a very high level. And then defensively, like we have one of the most diverse rosters in the league, if not the most, just with interior presence, point of attack defenders, passing lane defense, like guys with great instincts. Like a lot of that you can't teach. A lot of that is just great roster construction and then really competitive players.
AC, Kevin Durant was asked in the locker room last night after what Jokic did, just about the race and everything between Nikola and Shea. And he started to he put forth his appreciation for both, but I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he cut himself off when it sounded like he was going to say that maybe there should be a co-MVP. Like just the idea of that, like is that ridiculous to think? Like what do you think of that concept? Is that something people would embrace, you think?
Yeah, I'm a traditionalist. I like one winner. Someone's have a better season. Just pick it.
Coach, with Jay Will and his passing ability, specifically with him and Isaiah, I feel like that's a connection that they've had for a long time. But how have you seen that kind of grow and especially accumulate in a night like the other night?
I just think Joe's really grown in his creation with his feet. He's not doing it with the ball the way that you traditionally create, but he runs around, he frees himself up, and Hart and Jay Will specifically have done a really good job of recognizing those situations, freeing them up with the pass and also with the handoffs and with the screens. And we've grown that over the course of the year, and it was obviously really good last night.
Obviously, we've seen those like between the leg passes, but with Jay Will and Hart, is that something that's just them being creative with passing, or something that just opened?
I think that's a Hart. I don't want to speak for Jay Will. I think that's a Hart thing that he brought to the program, and Jay Will's picked that up. But Hart was doing that last year with DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
He's used to that. It allows those guys to hold their screens with those shooters, so they drop it between their legs, and then they're just in position to line up the screen and try to free the guy for a shot. But it's a good little trick.
But obviously, from the outside, like the whole Shea Nikola thing is going to be talked about entering this weekend. Is that something you've addressed with the team ahead of the weekend?
That might be from the outside, but it's Thunder and Nuggets from the inside, at least from our standpoint.
I know Shea, he's taking some level of responsibility and being a voice as far as distractions go. And I know that's what you guys treated that as. Has he adjusted the team in any capacity on their front this year, to your knowledge?
I mean, I think there's an inner dialogue. I think sometimes it gets propped up like it's a meeting or like it's a speech, but the whole team's constantly talking. We're constantly talking as a group. So yeah, he's been a voice, but there've been a lot of other voices, and like I said, there's nobody really standing in front of the group giving a speech. That's I think a little sensationalized.
And I know, I imagine you don't have some outstanding opinion on the race. You're not really focused on that, but for Nikola to be doing what he's doing, like the game he had last night, and for Shea to still be recognized as a betting favorite, just what do you think that says about kind of the state of the league and those two guys as players?
Every year there's a lot of worthy players for every award. It's never going to be a year where there's not 4 or 5 people that can make an argument for any of the awards. The awards are decided by other people. It's outside of everybody's control, and it's outside of the team. It's great when our guys are recognized individually, but that stuff's happening downstream of team success. That's the reason so many of our guys are being considered for individual accolades, and so that's where our focus is. And Shea's been an excellent leader in that regard. That's why we've had the collective season that we've had up till this point.
In talking to Aaron after his 40-point game, he said he kind of gained a different level of appreciation for what Shea and J-Dub deal with in terms of just pressure, coverage, top-tier defender. When he's thrust in sort of these some more like high-volume roles, what are you seeing from him in terms of how he's dealing with that? And of course, it's not going to be perfect, but just that level of pressure and opportunity that he's getting all at once.
I mean, he's had a nice run here, and I didn't think last night was a huge departure from what he's done typically. Like he had a couple of the end of quarter plays, like the end of the first quarter. Those were two like situations that he wouldn't normally be in. Those would normally be Shea or Dub. But I mean, he made a catch and shoot three. He got a cut. He got stuff in transition. He got secondary playmaking opportunities. He just got more of them last night. But given the role that he's been in, that's what he's been doing for the most part, is being incredibly productive in his spots. And I thought he stayed pretty much inside of his game last night, and so did the rest of the team. I thought it showed the power of the system more than anything. But he's done a great job, obviously, for a couple months now.
I guess also just maybe what he was referencing is like there's a level of exhaustion that can come in those situations. You're guarded by Kamara, you're getting double teamed sometimes, and just maybe to see a guy having to take on some of that as well can be maybe good for him down the line also.
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience for him, which he can grow from. But everybody's role is exhausting. He runs and cuts and screens and rolls more than some of the guys that with the ball do. The guys with the ball have a tough role, like he's referencing. The guys, I'm watching Dort shoot right now, him and Caruso and Kaysen pursuing the amount of pick and rolls they pursue. There's no one that's like got their foot off the gas, to be a high-performing team in a high-performing league. So everybody's role is different, but everybody's role is equally taxing and requires equal mental and physical engagement.
Mark, you mentioned earlier this week that whenever teams are having kind of the shooting variance that you need to react but not overreact, is there a sort of inflection point of when you do want to react, like a quarter or a run or anything like that? Or is it changing every game?
No, what I was referencing is like I think it was the San Antonio game, and they were really, really hot from three, shooting way above what you would expect. The point of not overreacting is you certainly don't want to start like flying by them, and now you're opening up a different can of worms. But reacting in terms of intensity, and reacting in terms of physicality and ball pressure, and just making them feel us a little bit more in the things that we want to do anyways. So we're not going to overreact schematically, but we want to react in terms of just our engagement and intensity, which in that game I thought was pretty good and went to a different level in the second half. And then I thought our engagement and intensity to start the last two games was excellent. We pitched a really good defensive game against Memphis, and then we were equally as good last night against Portland, and the shooting came back down to earth. Not for those teams specifically, but just generally for us. I mean, it wasn't hot shooting nights for those teams, and so it's part of what you have to endure over the course of an 82-game season.
How do you think you guys can handle afternoon games this season?
I don't know. I mean, what do you know?
I think Boston was one.
That was a good game.
Yeah.
Not a good first half, I guess, so we'll see. I mean, Denver plays at the same time as we do. It's daylight savings for everybody, so we're at no advantage or disadvantage.
Are you going to go to bed an hour earlier or anything to combat that?
I always go to bed an hour earlier if I can. I go to bed as early as I possibly
Back
can.
hours,
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If there's one thing I don't miss, it's sleep.
Sleep schedule questions.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.